So, for this week's paragraph exercise, you're being asked to fill in this statement. A passion can be hard to find because of blank. Now, you should answer this statement based upon what you learned when reading Chapter 6 Interest in Duckworth's book. All right, so remember, we're pretending that this is our thesis statement for the paper, and that in the paragraph exercise, you're writing one of your body paragraphs in the paper to respond to this question. Now, I'm going to point out some different criteria for this week's paragraph exercise that you're not used to. One of these criteria is that in this week, you need to use a quote from chapter 6 to use as one of your supporting points in the paragraph. So remember that your paragraph normally has 3 supporting points. At least one of those supporting points needs to include the quote from this week. Now, because you are quoting, as you learned last week, whenever we have a quote, you need to use the appropriate in-text and bibliographic citation. So this means you're going to need to refer back to that document that you had for the quiz last week on citations. What are citations and how to quote? So remember, if you go to our course page, if you go back to week 5 and click on this document, what are citations and how to quote? This is what you need to use. And I specifically want to draw your attention to page 8, where it gives the 5 parts of a quote right here. And I want to tell you, make sure that your quote has these 5 parts. It's introduced, you put quotation marks around the words that are not your own, in other words, the words that you borrow from Duckworth, and that you don't change what she says when you're using this as a quote, that you include the citation, and then you explain what the quote means. So right here is a good example of what I am looking for and wanting you to do. All right, one last change in the criteria for the paragraph exercise, and this is one that will continue from here on out in the course, and that is you no longer need to label the different paragraphs of your paper. And what that's saying is it's referring back to uh, chapter 8 in our Oz textbook, where you were asked to label the different parts of the paragraph like they were having you do. So if you go to the paragraph exercise sample that I've been having you guys use, see how you were labeling your sentences like this, like topic sentence. You don't need to do this anymore. So don't include the little brackets with like support 1 or support 2 or anything like that. You can leave those out now. What you do need to include, though, is something like the works cited. Now, if you're using APA, that'll say reference. If you're using Chicago, it'll say bibliography. So whichever citation style you're using, make sure to include the appropriate citations for that.